Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. So today, as you guys would obviously know from the title of this video, we are discussing Disney princesses' creepy origin stories. Now this is a part of a series on my channel where I do a creepy movie video once a week, every week for the month of October. So far we have how everyone in The Nightmare Before Christmas died, why Coraline's parents don't remember the Beldam, and today we are doing Disney princesses' creepy origin stories. So let's just get on into it. So let's cue the creepy music. I hope the music actually came on then, because if not, I'm gonna look so stupid. So the first creepy Disney princess origin story that we're gonna discuss today is Cinderella, who is my personal favorite princess. And the original version contains a lot more blood and gore than you would expect from Cinderella after watching the Disney version. So let's just get on into it. So firstly, in the original story, Cinderella's stepsisters are a lot meaner to her. They would call her all sorts of names, would push her, shove her, and they would throw lentils into ashes so that she would have to spend hours picking them out of the ashes. And along with this, the sisters also took all of her pretty clothes and made her wear the one disgustingly grubby dress and made her their servant, just like they do in the Disney version of the movie. So the beginning of the movie of Cinderella is pretty similar to the original story. The only difference is that the prince originally meets Cinderella at the ball, just like in the movie, and then the next day he meets her again at a dance festival. However, this time when she tries to run away before midnight strikes, he set up a trap for her. He's covered all of the steps in pitch so that when she tries to run away, her shoe gets stuck and stays in the pitch, and this is how he finds the shoe. So just like in the movie, when he finds the shoe, he declares that he'll only marry the girl whose foot fits inside this shoe. This is where the story gets really gross. So as the prince and all of his crew go to Cinderella's house, they meet the stepsisters, and the first stepsister takes the shoe into her room with her mum and no one else in the room and tries it on. But her foot is too big and it's her big toe that won't let her fit in the shoe. So her mother tells her to cut off her big toe because when she's a queen, she will no longer have to walk. What kind of mother does that? So this stepsister listens to her mum and cuts off her toe. Bearing through the pain, she shoves her foot into the shoe and it fits. So the prince declares that she is his bride, puts her on his horse and begins to ride her back to his castle. However, just like in the movie, Cinderella is friends with all of the animals. So when the birds see the prince riding away with the wrong bride, they sing, "There's blood in the shoe is too tight, the bride is not right." So the prince then looks down at the shoe and sees that the stepsister has in fact cut off her toe to fit inside the shoe, and takes her back to her house and declares that he has the wrong bride. He then gets the other stepsister to try the shoe on. So this time she goes into her room alone with the stepmother and tries to put the shoe on. So she fits her toes in perfectly, but her heel is sticking out at the end and her foot is too big. So her mother tells her other daughter to cut off a part of her heel because when she is a queen, she will no longer need to walk. So this stepsister also listens to her mum and cuts off a part of her heel, grips through the pain and goes down and shows the prince that the shoe fits. Once again, he puts her on her horse, declares her as his bride, and is riding her back to the castle when they pass Cinderella's birds again, who once again say, "There's blood in the shoe is too tight, the bride is not right." So the prince looks down at the stepsister's shoe and sees that there is so much blood that it has turned her entire stocking red. Ugh, disgusting. So he takes her back to her home and declares that she is also not the right bride. And he remembers that this family also had another daughter and asks the stepmother about her. The stepmother, similar to the movie, says that no, you don't need to see her, no one needs to see her, but the prince insists and he puts the shoe on Cinderella, the shoe fits, and they get married. The story then continues the same as the movie, except for at the prince and Cinderella's wedding, because the two stepsisters, missing feet and all, show up to the wedding wanting to make amends with Cinderella, and she agrees. But as they all walk out of the church after Cinderella has been married, Cinderella's birds fly down to the stepsisters and peck out their eyeballs, deeming that it's their punishment for being so cruel to Cinderella all of her life. And that is the original creepy and gory story of Cinderella. So that's a bit of a spin from the original Cinderella story, a lot more blood and gore, and when you just think about cutting off your toe or your heel, how much pain that would be, just makes the story even more creepy and disgusting. The next original Disney story that we're going to discuss is The Princess and the Frog. So let's get into it. So one night the princess was sitting at a river all by herself playing with her favorite toy, which was a golden ball. Now she liked to throw it up into the air and catch it, and it was her favorite thing to do. But at one point she throws it so high up into the air that she doesn't catch it, so the ball landed on the ground and rolled into the river. The princess leant over to try and pull it out, but the water was way too deep and she couldn't do it. Since it was her favorite item in the whole world, she then began to cry and scream about how unhappy she was, saying that she would give all of her dresses, all of her jewels, all of her money to whoever could help get the ball out of the river. Suddenly, a frog appears and asks why the princess is crying, and she asks, "What can you do for me, you nasty frog?" He then explains to her that he will be able to get the ball back for her, but he does not want any of her riches, any of her clothes, or any of her jewels. Instead, he wants her to love him, to let him live with her, to let him eat off her golden plate, and to let him sleep in her bed. Creepy much? She says yes, and the frog jumps into the river, pulls out the ball, and gives it back to her. She's then so excited that she just runs back to the palace with the ball, completely forgetting about the frog, and she didn't think of him again. Until later that night, there was a soft knock at the door, and when the king and queen opened the door, they saw the frog there. He explained to the king and queen what the princess has promised him. And because they are big on keeping their word, they made the princess bring the frog into the house. So the frog came in and he ate off her plate, and then he demanded to be taken up to her room and to sleep in her bed. And the princess obeyed because her parents were watching. The next day she woke up and the frog was gone, and she thought, great, cool, don't have to deal with that anymore. Until later at night, once again, there was a knock on the door and it was the frog. So again, under her father's watchful eye, she had to allow him to eat off her golden plate. But when he demanded to be taken up to her room, again, she was furious. So she took him up to the room, barely even touching him, and placed him down. When he then demanded to sleep in her bed with her, she lost it, and she picked him up and threw him against the wall with all of her might, hoping it would kill him, because she said, "Now you will have your peace, you disgusting frog." But unlike the movie, the spell was actually broken when he hit the wall with such force, as when the frog hit the ground, it wasn't a frog, but in fact a prince, and the two lived happily ever after. So that story is a lot creepier than the Disney version, and just, ugh. I mean, the frog is so much more creepy. The princess tried to murder the frog, like, whew. It's a lot creepier. The third original creepy story that we're going to discuss today is The Beauty and the Beast. Now this one is kind of difficult because it truly is a tale as old as time. So this story is so old that it was being talked about before there was even print media, meaning that people just used to tell it to each other as a story. So it can be hard to find the original story of The Beauty and the Beast. This is the most popular one. So, in the original story, Belle is in a family of 6 children. There are 3 girls including herself and 3 boys, and of course her dad. But he's not an inventor like in the movies. Instead, he's a very wealthy merchant that accidentally loses his fortune. So the entire family is forced to leave their life of riches and instead move to be a peasant life in the countryside. So all of the boys in the family adapt to this really quickly, and so does Belle herself. But her 2 sisters are miserable, and they are described as being miserable people because they spend the entire time complaining and longing for their old life. Because they were such miserable people, they began to hate Belle because of her beauty and because how she didn't hate being a peasant like they did. They saw it as her way of mocking them, which was not true at all. So just like in the Disney version, Belle's dad goes on a journey, somehow ends up getting lost, and goes into the castle to find a shelter. And when he goes to leave the castle, the beast decides that he is going to take his life. However, when the dad mentions that he has 3 daughters, the beast decides that he will spare the dad's life if he can keep one of the daughters. And the dad agrees, the selfish dad agrees to give his daughter up to a beast. So he goes back to his house and explains what's happened to his 3 daughters, and Belle instantly volunteers because she could not bear the sight to see her dad being captured by this beast, which this dad is a horrible human being in this story. So Belle goes to the castle and the events are pretty much the same as in the movie, except the Beast lives all alone in his castle. There aren't any fun and magical furniture items. Another difference is that the Beast is really open with his affection for Belle. He tells her how much he loves her and how he wants to be with her, but the feelings aren't really returned by Belle. He loves her so much though that he lets her go visit her family for a week, and the deal was that at the end of the week she would come back to the house. So Belle agrees. He gives her a ring, and with the ring she teleports back to her family. When she shows up and greets her sisters, her two sisters are furious. One, that she's alive because they'd presumed their beautiful sister, who they hated, had been dead for all these years. And two, because she was dressed more elegantly than them and covered in expensive jewelry. And they were furious and extremely jealous. So the two came up with a plan to have Belle killed. The plan was that they would convince Belle to stay with them an extra week, thus breaking the promise with the Beast, and hopefully this would force the Beast to kill Belle. What? So Belle falls for this plan and breaks her promise with the Beast by staying with her family for longer. She stays with them for a few extra days until she eventually has a dream about the Beast dying. She wakes up crying her eyes out, and this is the point when she realizes that she does love the Beast. So she goes back to the castle and finds that the Beast is unconscious and she presumes he's dead, and it's because he didn't eat for every extra day that Belle was away. When she lays over him and is crying her eyes out once again, this is when the curse is broken and the Beast turns into a gorgeous prince, and the two walk back to the castle together. The rest of the story remains the same, except when they return to the castle, they are greeted by a beautiful enchantress who tells Belle that she will be an amazing queen because of her good heart. But the enchantress has also invited the family to this event, so she turns to the two sisters and tells them that their punishment for their wickedness is to be turned to stone for the rest of their lives. And she turns them to stone. And that is the creepy original story of the Beauty and the Beast. And oh, it is so just dark and creepy, and Disney definitely forgot to mention that part. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys all enjoyed these creepy Disney princess original stories. If you did like it, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, also turning on that post notification bell. If there are any more Disney movies, or any movies really, where you want me to discuss their origin stories, be sure to let me know down in the comments below and I'll do it. Also leave down below any video suggestions and let me know what you want to see on this channel, because I read every single comment. And yeah, and I loved seeing what you guys want to see. If you want to see more of my face, I am on social media as well. I'm on Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter. My links are down below and on the screen right now. And I will see you guys next week for the last installment of this creepy October series. Bye. So I went back through and watched the entire movie of Coraline and realized there was a theory that needed to be discussed, and so far as I'm aware on the internet hadn't. And that is the theory of why Coraline's parents do not remember the Beldam.